Hey, had a little difficulty earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and redo this live again. So I hope you stick with me. In fact, I know you will, because decisions feel heavy, not because we can't decide, right? But because every decision is carrying things like fear, judgment, expectations, integrity, responsibility, and all these things at the same time. That's why decision making isn't heavy because of the decision. What it is it's heavy because of everything that comes along with it. And that's what I want to talk with you today here on Break Time Live with Michelle O'Neill. And I am thrilled to be here with you this morning. So, one of the things I talked about is fear. And when I talk about fear, for us, a lot of times it's something about being wrong. What if we're wrong, right? What if we make the wrong decision? Or even how that decision reflects on you. And what about judgment, right? I'm not going to how do you say, it's that judgment when we worry about what others think about us. And fear doesn't have to stay by itself because it brings judgment along with it, right? How will I be seen? Will people take me seriously? How many times have you thought these thoughts in your mind, wondering how other people's perceive you or how other people look at you? In fact, let me be honest, I love singing. That was my job in the military, and I've been singing since I was 6 years old. But one of the biggest things that would always stop me, and I know this isn't about decision making, well, it would make a decision on whether I would be in that contest, whether I would get on that stage, whether I was willing to try out for that part. And it was fear of that judgment of how people would perceive me, whether I would make a mistake or if I was good enough. All these things kind of intertwine together. And then there's another layer of that plays with these two, the fear and the judgment, and that's expectations. All of these relate to each other. There's external expectations and there are internal expectations. Then there are the ones that you've learned and the ones that you've accepted and you allowed yourself to take on that role. And I just bet that you can probably name exactly where those expectations came from. Whether it's your mom, your dad, a teacher, a previous boss, someone that you held in high esteem, those expectations that you accepted and you took on. But there are also a point where decisions stop being practical and start being personal. And that's when it deals with our integrity and our morality and our character. You know, can I stand by this? I remember one of my coaches when I was in real estate, his name was Brian Buffini, and we used to always go to his conferences, right? And he told a story about his father and the expectations that he grew up on and the integrity of his father. His father was a painter. And what he would do is he would be very particular and he was excellent at what he did. And as he trained his boys up to be a painter, he did the same thing. And sometimes they would want to take the easy way out. And he said, there's one thing I want you to remember. When I paint, I look at what I painted and I think, can I sign my name to it? That's the kind of integrity, expectation, and excellence that he grew up under. And so I'm asking my women what they look at is, can I sign my name at this? As a high performing woman leader that lives in today's society, we stand by our name, our morality, and our character. And at this point, when we're standing in that, decision begins to press on you. And that's probably why sometimes it's hard to make those decisions, because now the decision isn't just about choice, it's about identity, how you're perceived. This is who you are. And that's how people look at your decisions. You ever hear yourself tell, oh, she must think this of herself, or, oh, I like that because of the decision that they made and how it affected you? But we also have a North Star. And when I talk about our North Star, is that thing, that compass that we live by, that thing that guides us, that thing that we hold everything up to when we make a decision, right? And there are things like your faith, your belief, your values. And for me, my faith is that North Star. Everything I hope, everything I do, everything I think, everything I see is through the lens of my faith and what I believe. And that's how most of us are. Most of you are, through your beliefs, through your values. Every decision you make, everything you do is built off of your beliefs and your values. But not only that, we have these people that we call our front row. And our front row are those people that we respect and that we go to and that we ask questions before we make that decision. What do you think about this? This is what I'm thinking. How do you see it? That's our North Star. We all have something that we're checking ourselves against before we decide. And that is where guilt often slips in, because we start feeling guilty when we're trying to make a decision and that decision, well, is kind of off of what we want. It benefit us. And you ask yourself, is this helping anyone else? Is this benefiting anyone else? And so we feel guilty, knowing that probably in this instance, we're not making the best decision. And so you don't have to answer this, but I want you to just notice if that's true for you. And this hits a lot of us, and especially with the women that I work with, because we work hard. We have standards. And high integrity, high performing women, we strive for excellence. We care deeply. We consider everyone, especially those we love, but even those, it's how can we make them better? How can we help them become better? How can we teach them something? How can we um, save them from the things that we had to go through so that they don't have to go through them? And the other thing is, we deal with things because we already know our limit. We know what we can handle. And so we take it on because we don't want them and we don't know their gauge of what they can handle. So we take it on because we know we can do it. And so what happens? What's really happening is we absorb the cost. And so if you're listening to this, if you're out there right now and you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, that's me. You're not alone. I hear it constantly. As I talk with women, as I observe women in different situations in their homes, at work, I'm telling you, you're not alone. And this is why decisions feel heavy, not because you don't know what to do. When you're worried about judgment, when you're worried about fear, when you're stuck in expectations, when you're carrying guilt, when you're holding all of this before you make a decision, you're carrying more than anyone else sees. And at a certain point, decision making stops being about choice and it starts being about safety. When judgment enters the picture, and that was number 3 we talked about? But when judgment starts entering the picture, it becomes deeply personal. And we start doing things to avoid that feeling. Things like avoidance, where we start finding ways not to decide. We deal with procrastination so we don't have to make a decision, or we take forever, or we actually avoid positions, right, in our lives where decisions are required. I can specifically say there are instances in my life when I was in the government and corporate where I did not put in for jobs. I did not take to jobs because I knew the responsibility and the decision making that came with that job. And I didn't want to be put in that position of judgment and that responsibility. Not because I didn't know, but I decided that that was costly. And I'm asking you, is that what you're doing? And I want you to know that avoidance, it's not laziness, it's self-protection. And if you're not doing it through avoidance, then we do things by being reactive and making decisions just to make a decision, just to get that pressure off of us, just to say, okay, already. These aren't aligned decisions and they hurt us. What we're doing when we do that is we're escaping actually making the decision, the right decision. And that takes us back to, can I sign my name to this? Is this the place of excellence that I want to be? You're not choosing well or poorly. You're choosing relief. It's not about the decision. It's about the relief that you're looking for from the pressure of making that decision. And so what happens when we put ourselves in that position and we do it over time is we lose trust in ourselves, in our ability to make the right decisions, in our ability to make good decisions. We start second guessing ourselves, and this second guessing becomes constant because you don't even know what's true anymore. And our confidence in ourselves it actually erodes. Confidence that others had in us also dissipates. And they don't know whether they can rely on us anymore. If we're who they even thought we were. Have you ever been in a job and over time your confidence in yourself and your ability to make the right decisions has eroded and people come to you less? Your performance evaluations go down? All of this because not feeling safe in making the decisions that you made. And you notice, this isn't me. I used to be reliable. And you know what? That awareness, it hurts. And we often get rattled. And when you get rattled, what happens is your nervous system activated and your mind starts circling for the right answer and your thinking tightens. In other words, you can't think because your mind is circling. And decision making actually feels debilitating. You're not deciding because you're worried about deciding what's wrong. So I want you to understand this. Rattled is not confused, is not incapable. It's the relational fallout that you're worried about, and you get rattled because you know you have to deal with that. And some of that relational fallout that you deal with is frustration on both sides. You're frustrated at yourself because you feel you're being pushed. You're being pushed in a corner. You're being backed up in a corner to make a decision that you're not ready to make up or that you haven't had time to really think through. So you're frustrated at that. And others are frustrated at you because they have to wait for you to finally make a decision. So the patient erodes on both sides and they start demanding answers. People demand answers of you when you're not making a decision in the time that they want it. And words land wrong. They come out wrong. Relationships are strained and things go south. Most people don't even know how to interact with someone in this state. When you're like this, when you're rattled, when you're frazzled, they don't even know how to react with you or interact with you because their focus is on needing a decision. And your focus is, I can't think right now. And so you turn inward. If you can't physically remove yourself, you mentally and emotionally, a lot of times, just remove yourself. You start isolating, and it becomes a habit. Because this decision-making issue that I'm talking about, or stance that I'm talking about, isn't in just one time. I'm talking about perpetually stopping making decisions because it rattles you, because of the pressure. And what happens is you start pulling back. Because what you need is space. You need time to think, time to process, time to regulate. And when space isn't there, that pressure stays. Your expectations stay, they don't go away. And the answer is still demanded. And when I say it goes south, what I'm talking about is then that creates outburst or shutting down or giving in or making bad decisions. And that reaction that you do replaces clarity. And when you're put in that position, you feel trapped. You feel anger at that other person. Especially if it's someone close to you, you think they should have understood. They should have known me. How long have I been like this? And then you're angry with yourself. I let this happen. I lost it. I didn't take the time I needed. I don't feel like I have that time. I don't feel like I'm allowed that space to make a good decision. And I'm doubting myself. Decision making no longer feels safe. Not emotionally, not relationally, and not internally. So, what do we do? What does that look like? If we stay on this path, there's more procrastination. Have you ever found yourself doing things like researching every decision that you make before you let someone know your decision? You look at it up and down, right and left. What does science say about it? What does this say about it? So that you won't be wrong. And that if someone calls you on it, you've got supporting facts. And so you've stalled yourself in your decision making, especially if it takes a quick decision, because you don't feel safe enough and you don't trust yourself enough. And you start doubting what you know, all because that safety has been stripped away. The issue stops being about decision making. This isn't about indecision. It isn't about capability. This is about what happens when your decisions no longer feel safe. Like I said, when decisions feel heavy, we assume that we need better clarity, right? Better logic, better answers. But what actually has changed is your safety factor on whether you'll be judged, on whether you know, whether you have that freedom to be aligned with who you are. When safety is gone, the nervous system takes over. When safety is gone, clarity, it doesn't help. When safety is gone, even simple decisions feel threatening. Can you raise your hand to that? And that's why overthinking, over researching doesn't solve this. Nothing is wrong with you. You didn't suddenly lose your ability to decide and make good decisions. Your system adapted to the pressure. That's the shift that I wanted you to see here with me today. Do you feel safe in your decision making? If you listen to this and you realize, oh, this isn't about decisions. This is about how unsafe it feels to decide. I want you to know you're not imagining that. And just seeing it doesn't automatically make it lighter, make it easier. This matters. The undivided is a place where a kind of awareness becomes something that, or this kind of awareness becomes something that you can actually live with. Not to fix it, not to rush it, but just to live with it. To be aligned in the decisions that you make. And look, it's not open yet, but there's a waiting list if you want to know when it is. And I'll go ahead and put something below. But I just want you to understand that when you're sitting in that judgment, when you're worried about decision making, when you're worried about your next step and you want to stand in alignment with your decisions and not be frazzled or make decisions because you're pressured, I want you to understand that there is a space where you can feel safe. And I want this conversation to just sit with you until next time, next Thursday, and most Thursdays. I'm Mischelle O'Neill. Take care. Bye-bye.